Portland Pilots are the 2016 West Coast Conference champions.
Sharp in another dimension.
And it's gone! A walk-off two-run home run by Kate Ludwig, and the Pilots win it.
The Portland Pilots win their first national championship in overtime.
Welcome back to the Portside Pod. I'm Chris Clements. This week we got Henry Cheney back. He left us for a minute there. Missed out on a couple, but you're back now. We're excited. And then we also have Chris Jackson, one of our new athletic trainers here at UP. How you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you guys for having me on here.
So you have been here for a couple months now?
Yeah, my first day was October 7th. Like, you guys were already in fall ball, so I just kind of hit the ground running. So 3 months maybe at most.
Yeah. Okay. And you're originally from Portland area?
Yep, I grew up in Sherwood, and yep, from the area, never moved anywhere else until college, really.
Okay. And then what's it like to be back kind of in Portland, working at a college here?
It's super cool. Like, I've talked to a couple of guys. Like, I played in like a state tournament here at Childs when I was in high school, which was awesome. It's just nice being in the Portland area again. Like, it's always been home. This is where I have roots, family, friends, everything like that. So it's pretty sweet.
And you were a basketball player, correct? And throughout high school?
Yes.
And football?
Yeah, basketball and football.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we have some insiders here that have said that your outside shot is lacking recently.
I would like who said that? I'd like to get a name.
That is an unknown source that we cannot talk about, but that's just kind of the rumor around on the bluff this evening.
Well, it's wrong, but I'll allow it. Well, it's fine, but it's wrong.
Yeah, we'll get some cameras out there next time you play in the pickup basketball games.
That's fine. I'll allow it.
We'll have to announce one of those games.
Yeah. Oh, that'd
actually
awesome.
be fun because the entire baseball staff plays.
Oh, really?
Yeah, except for Loomis.
Yeah, who would you say is probably the best basketball player out of the staff?
Out of the staff, including me?
Besides you.
Myself?
Obviously, you were number one.
It depends. You got Lambo, who's got a good all-around game on both sides of the ball.
Okay.
Tino likes to facilitate quite a bit, which is good. He likes to push the pace a lot. Even if we don't have numbers, the pace is getting pushed. I played with him, and there's like 3 people in front of us. It's just me. He's like, go. I was like, okay, we're going. But Tufo's, he locks in. Mm-hmm. He's got this mid-range game right around the baseline that's just money. So they all kind of bring their own thing, which is fun to play with.
Huh.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, which one of those guys do you think are the ones who gave us the information on the
Lambo? That's who I was guessing.
I could see that. Yeah, Lambo's definitely.
Just because he talks probably the most junk to me. Mm-hmm. That's why.
Yeah, that's kind of how he is.
Mm-hmm.
We go golfing sometimes, and he just really just lets me hear it or lets me have it. It's not the most fun, but it's definitely a good time. So you started off you went to Oregon State for undergrad and graduate school.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Did you work in the athletic training room while you were going to school there? Yeah,
so undergrad, I just kind of got my degree in kinesiology, and then I did grad school in athletic training specifically. For those 2 years, I was in the athletic training room, kind of doing a bunch of student-led stuff.
Okay, and you were there when they went to the College World Series? Yeah,
my first year of grad school, I got the opportunity to work with Oregon State for kind of that season. It was kind of like my rotation, and I was lucky enough to go with them when we played in Omaha the year before they won it. So,
what was that experience like? Kind of just they were supposed to win, I want to say. That was the year that they lost 6 games? Yeah, we lost a total of 6, including the 2 in Omaha, I believe. And that was we had a handful of first rounders, couple other guys in the top 5, and we played LSU twice, and they beat us twice, which was kind of tough. But that team was ridiculous. But it was just everything you expect it to be, but just bigger. Like there was just everything's just bigger and brighter, and it's just all baseball all the time, which is pretty sweet.
It'll be cool too to have a little reunion as the Pilots head there.
We will. That's pretty cool. Yeah.
Yeah, might not have the same amount of fans as the College World Series, but still
give
be
or
cool.
Give or take,
a few.
Yeah, you're right.
Hopefully, do they play here this year too? They come here, or is it at Hillsboro?
I think we go at Hillsboro.
Oh man, that would be cool with the new stadium.
That would be cool. Maybe you never know.
Yeah, I'm gonna push for that. I think I got a little bit of pull in the athletic department now.
Okay.
I'm hosting a podcast. Come on. So actually backtrack for a minute here. What was it like? You were recruited for basketball and football out of high school, correct?
Yeah, I was. It was kind of some smaller Division III schools. I mean, Pacific Lutheran was one of them. Puget Sound was another one. And those were kind of the two that I kind of mainly talked to. But nothing too crazy besides that.
And you decided, what was the experience like to kind of decide to go away from playing and going into, being a student and getting into athletic training?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was just kind of understanding what the commitment was going to be at a lower level university, along with the outside tuition, and kind of money was a factor for me. But then kind of deciding that, all right, we still want to go to school. I want to be a little close to home. And I didn't actually know I was going to do athletic training right away. I didn't decide to do athletic training until the end of my senior year, like right before I was graduating. I didn't know what I was doing. Really is what happened. But I was still, like, I played IMs, classic IM, basketball, football, softball, like slow pitch stuff. So that was all fun. Yeah. That was all fun. But yeah, it was just kind of a transition that ended up just happening, and it was fun. I mean, got to do kind of the college life and meet a bunch of different people and experience some other stuff. Had a little bit more free time again as opposed to playing sports.
I gotcha. Yeah. What would you say was the point where you knew that you were going to go into athletic training? Did you have kind of an interest in it beforehand?
Yeah. When I was like in undergrad, I think as a sophomore, I was kind of thinking about doing it as an undergrad program. And at the time I was like, I don't know if I want to. It's maybe not for me. It seems like a lot of work just to maybe work at the high school level. Because at the time I was like not thinking about grad school at all. I was like, I'll never go to grad school. There's no way, no shot, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah.
But then I kind of just stuck with kinesiology, sports science, and stuff like that. And one of my professors that I had I was pretty close with asked me about applying for the program as a master's degree. And I kind of looked at it a little bit more and knew I wanted to be in the realm of athletics at the college level. And so I decided to kind of feel it out, and for some reason they let me into the program, and I haven't looked back since, and it's been a lot of fun. So
yeah, that's awesome. It's funny that you say that you were not planning to go to grad school at all.
Oh, not even close.
I think that's usually how it happens.
Yeah.
For me, especially, I was like the exact same way. I was like, okay, I'm going to graduate early from undergrad so I can go play pro ball and not have to worry about coming back. And then next thing you know, I'm injured a couple times. I struggle, and I'm like, well, now I got to go to grad school. And now I'm not even playing anymore. I'm going to grad school.
Yeah, I feel that.
Like, come on, man. So after Oregon State, you ended up going to Washington State, correct?
Yeah, last year I was an intern athletic trainer at Washington State, and I was working with their baseball team there. So
how was that, the difference between Oregon State baseball, Washington State baseball? Not to knock anyone down here, but Oregon State's kind of on another level.
Yeah, it was way different. But I think the biggest thing that I took away from that was I knew I enjoyed working baseball, specifically because we obviously had a down year at Wazoo last year. We unfortunately won, I think, 11 games through that season, which was tough, but it was still an enjoyable experience for me. I still learned a lot. It was still awesome. I still am in contact with a lot of people and guys that play at Wazoo still, which is fun. But that was kind of a big reinforcement for me, like, I really like working baseball specifically. I love athletic training, but I really like working baseball too, specifically.
Yeah, is that weird for you sometimes where there's not really that much of an age gap for you, like in terms of you're technically in charge of them at some point?
Technically, yeah, I am looked at as a superior, but I'm only a few years older than them. Especially if they are like a graduate student, and I only graduated from grad school last June, so that's kind of funny. But it also is kind of a strength of mine. I feel like I'm pretty relatable with a lot of the guys, and I can get them to buy into a lot of certain things, which is fun in my experiences. So there's definitely some pluses and minuses to it, though, for sure.
Would have been interesting to see if we still had Mr. Lopez on the baseball team. Might have beat Chris there in age.
Seriously, yeah.
I guess he's like, still on the staff.
Yeah, he's still
like
around.
35 or something. Right?
Yeah, he's getting up there.
Yeah. I haven't seen a birth certificate, but I believe it.
We can get you one of those.
Yeah. I should probably have it in the medical record, but it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if we're allowed to bring that one out.
No, we won't.
Yeah. So you after Washington State, you went to Long Beach for how long?
I was at Long Beach for a total of, I think, 2 months, like 10 weeks at most. Yeah, okay. It was a pretty short stint there.
And were you there, you were working with volleyball, or what teams were you
with?
Yeah,
I was working with men's volleyball and men's water polo. It was kind of like a dual kind of coverage for me. That's how they set it up there.
That must have been tough, switching from Pullman to working inside at the gym at Long Beach State.
Yeah, the super nice thing is that the weather was beautiful and our water polo pool was outside.
Oh.
So, and it was kind of in that transition of late summer to kind of early fall, so the weather was super nice and everything like that, which was fun. But I didn't really mind turning in my snow parka for t-shirts and shorts constantly. But was volleyball in season while you were there, or not at all? Volleyball was just kind of getting into their fall ball session as I was getting ready to leave.
They ended up just winning the national championship.
They won the last two,
Okay.
They won the last two national championships. So they were a high-profile team for sure, and they were a great group of guys as well, which was fun.
Yeah, it seems like every team that you touch eventually wins the national championship. So,
I guess, that's one way to look at it.
That puts us on track, right? At UP next year is
ideally that's the plan.
You're not allowed to leave until someone wins a national championship on our team. So
you're right. I think we also have talked about we plan on going to Omaha twice this year.
Yep.
So we'll be taking 2 trips this year.
That is awesome. Yeah, if you would love to go to Omaha twice in 1 year.
Exactly.
So I kind of wanted to switch over into what you're doing now here, kind of working with athletes all the time. And one thing that I've always wondered is, what's the psychological aspect of helping athletes kind of recover from injury or go through that process?
I think a big thing that I always try to talk to guys with, particularly with baseball players, it's a mental game in itself. So I think what I really talk to them about is being in the right mindset when we're doing anything and understanding the reason for what we're doing, and also making sure they understand that there are going to be good days and there's going to be bad days. Like, there's going to be days with a long-term injury that we are going to be backset by a couple of days or a week, and we just need to kind of continue to do what we're doing because we're doing all of this for a reason. And being able to reiterate that to them helps them get a little bit more buy-in to understanding why I'm making them do X, Y, and Z, or I'm not letting them do X, Y, or Z. So I think that's a big thing.
Yeah, because I feel like with injuries, especially ones that are long-term like you were talking about, like, there's the side of it where it's the physical, you're trying to, hit every little jump into getting back into it. But then the psychological side of it is really where it's, you're making the difference of being able to come back from a serious injury, or, maybe not taking the right steps to get there. So, yeah, I mean, I know I've been through big injuries, and I guess that's the most important part for me that I think of. I guess, how do you evaluate when an athlete's ready to return once they get past that?
There's kind of a multitude of ways to kind of look at it. I think a big thing is there's certain evidence-based practice kind of benchmarks that the surgeon will say they have to do this, or this. For example, if there's some sort of throwing protocol that they're going through, they've got to be able to throw to this amount or this length of distance with this amount of effort without pain. And then we kind of move forward from that. And then as we kind of digress through that, we are working on how they're feeling both physically and mentally. I think one thing I really kind of do is check in with guys and say, okay, how are you feeling today? Better, same, or worse? Because once we clear the surgeon, they said, okay, we're good to go back to full activity, they're not going to just jump in and play right away. There's some sort of restriction that we're going to kind of tweak and manage, and that's one of the hardest things about what we do as athletic trainers, I think. And so I think a big thing is always constantly getting feedback, both from the players but the coaches as well, and really kind of taking in what they do at practice from a position standpoint and being able to tweak that, and me being able to control that in a rehab setting before we just let them go. And so once I can kind of see that and I know they feel comfortable and confident in doing it, then we get to kind of progress to full intensity at practice before we go to a game as the next point and kind of the end point there.
I'm sure there's been some tough conversations from any competitive person. As soon as they get an injury and they start to feel better, they want to get back out there and play, and it's got to be tough sometimes to be like, whoa, we got to slow it down here.
Yeah, I always tell guys it's a lot more pleasant for me to kind of push you as opposed to like hold you back. I don't want to be the guy that has to hold you back, but I mean, sometimes you get those people who really don't think they are ready, but I'd be like, no, I've seen it. Like, I know you're ready, and kind of like give them that push. So there's a happy medium we always kind of try to walk, depending on that person's kind of attitude with their injury or just kind of who they are as an athlete. I think that's a big thing too.
Yeah, like kind of Chris talked about, there's always that mental breakthrough where you just got to know you're healthy, you got to trust your training and just kind of let it go.
Yeah, and I think a big thing of that is being able to get pictures of their image if they had a serious injury and be like, this is intact again, or this is healthy again, and we continue to kind of work through and build on that each day, and it's a process, and I think that's a big thing we have to, as athletic trainers, reiterate to our athletes when it's a longer process.
Yeah, because there's always kind of that like phantom injury idea where you're like kind of still, you think you're still hurt. So you're like kind of favoring, say if you have a knee surgery or something. I know I had knee surgery and I was like limping when I didn't need to really.
Yep.
I'm actually missing like this much of my femur, so that obviously doesn't help.
Yeah,
but,
no, probably doesn't.
But yeah, so that's where I was talking about kind of like the mental side of it. It's getting people over that hump, you know. But then on the other side, do you think it makes your job harder if someone's really pushing to get out there before they're ready? But do you think that's a good problem to have? Is people really trying to be ready to get back out there?
Yeah, I like it. I think there are hard points to it for sure, but at the same time, I like seeing the eagerness because I think we can kind of translate that to have them buy into whatever rehab process that we're going through, or whatever the task at hand that we have for that day to get better, and whatever we need to get better from a rehab standpoint or an athletic training standpoint, which is good to have. I think it's a little bit easier in a way because I've kind of learned how to talk to athletes about kind of what we need to modify or kind of rein in a little bit, just because we want them to make sure we're not going to harm them anymore. So, especially if it's a serious injury.
Yeah, with the phantom injury type thing and just the mental side of it, it's kind of, I guess I don't know if you're familiar, I'm sure you are, with being a basketball guy, the Markelle Fultz situation where his shoulder was messed up, right? And but there was like different reports that maybe it wasn't.
And I think a big thing with that is media reporting. Who knows what the actual injury was? I think that's a big thing that whether he was comfortable with it being disclosed or whoever the medical staff was as well. I think that's a big thing that has to be deciphered first off. But yeah, that mental aspect, because he's playing at the highest level, aside from maybe playing in the World Cup or in the Olympics. And the NBA basketball is the league if you're a basketball player, and I think he was one and done kid at a UW, right? So I think that's for sure going to be a huge battle, especially if there's continuous some sort of injury or like tweak that he's feeling on any sort of movement. He's going to expect or think that feeling's going to come back, so it's going to change his shot. I think was a big thing for him. Yeah, now I've noticed that he's been doing well recently, so that's good to see because he's got so much talent. Yeah, he really does. He's super explosive. I think Orlando picked up his option for the next year, or the next couple of years.
And was he the number one pick?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
he was.
He went number
one. Or no, but by the Sixers, right?
Yeah. I think he had to get out of Philly to kind of reset that.
Yeah, seriously, that's a tough place to play sports.
Yeah.
When you were talking about the media and kind of the disclosure side of it, I don't really know the rules on all of that. But one thing that I was kind of wondering was, are you legally allowed to diagnose an injury before they go to a doctor, or are you kind of just like allowed to like suggest it?
We are allowed to diagnose an injury, but it's not definitive.
Okay.
Definitive is usually used by doctors reinforcing our diagnosis, and we usually call it a differential diagnosis.
Okay.
So we'll kind of come up with a couple of things we think are a possibility. We can't give a full proof 100% saying this is what the injury is for sure, but with our expertise and our knowledge in the orthopedic assessment classes and the experience that we get, we are allowed to diagnose, and then we collaborate with a team physician, especially at this level of athletics. We work with our team physicians and kind of talk about what we each found in our assessments to then decide if we do need imaging, whether it be an x-ray or an MRI or a CT, and usually getting those pictures to kind of help us really identify what the actual injury is, whether we were right or kind of slightly right, or if it was completely different or something like that.
Yeah, because I was kind of wondering if there was ever a time where you say someone tore their ACL and you were doing the test and you could feel that it was messed up, and I just didn't know if you were allowed to tell them that, or if there was ever a time where you kind of just kept that quiet until.
Yeah, we are allowed to tell the athletes stuff. Usually we won't tell them strictly like black and white, yo, for sure. But it's usually, okay, I might think this is something that is of concern, and kind of moving forward and kind of using a doctor to kind of reinforce what we found or help us if it's something in a different direction that isn't an athletic injury or an injury that we've seen before. Because I'm still seeing new things almost daily, which is one thing I like about athletic training. It's different every day. But there are plenty of injuries that you'll never see ever. And then all of a sudden, 20 years into practice, there's just something random that a doctor knows just because they had to learn it, basically everything. And it's something new that you kind of have to deal with and kind of work around. So,
yeah, what do you say there's a new injury? What is the kind of, I guess there's maybe not something that you've worked with before, the approach to the rehab and stuff? Do you just kind of take pieces from things that are similar, or I don't really know about how it goes? But
I think a lot of it is kind of looking at evidence-based practice, so like scholarly articles, peer-reviewed articles, kind of stuff that's based on science that has done some sort of evidence and research to kind of get some sort of foundational knowledge. A lot of athletic trainers will actually kind of reach out to one another. I know I'll reach out to my mentors and kind of see if they've ever dealt with this type of injury before or anything similar to it, and ask them what to do in this situation, especially being a young professional. I've only been around athletic training for about 3 years now total, so I'm still kind of learning and always kind of asking for advice or tips as the first idea or the second idea that I have hasn't worked the way I want it to. And you can kind of see that even in the athletic training room in Childs here. I mean, if someone's kind of got a leg injury that I haven't really seen before, I'm going to lean on people who are lower leg dominant sports or kind of power sports, or if it's an upper extremity like a shoulder or an elbow, I've been asked about some stuff about rehab or treatment and stuff like that. So we kind of all help each other out. We might be in charge of a team, but we kind of help pick each other up because we're all there for the student athletes at the end of the day. So
yeah, I think that's kind of what I've talked to Coach Brian Ferrati about. We talked about how he's in charge of one team, other people are in charge of another team, but really it's just kind of a full team effort to kind of make every sport here healthy and, better prepared to go out there. So, what's the hardest part about your job?
I think one of the really hard things is definitely giving that bad news. A lot of times the athletic trainer has to play bad guy or deliver some negative news, whether it be to the coaching staff or to the athletes. And I think a big thing about that is it's just hard. Like telling anyone bad news is not easy, especially the timing is a tough thing. Like if you're in a season, you're trying to make a deep run and someone goes down with something, that's kind of an unfortunate thing to have to deal with. I think that's probably the toughest part, is giving that bad news and having to stick to your guns, just because from a medical standpoint, we're here to kind of protect that student athlete first and foremost, not just at the university, but their well-being kind of after school and after athletics as well. But I think that, and then really continuing to work on deciding when someone can come back, when they can't come back, and that timing, whether we're in season or not in season, is always kind of evolving, because no two injuries are the same. You can have two people who tear their ACL, but they're going to rehab or they're going to come back at different time points, and you have to really tailor that to each athlete too.
And do you think sometimes it's harder to tell the coaches than the athletes?
Yes. Yeah, I do.
That's what I feel like it'd be way harder.
Yeah. I mean, it gets easier, but it's probably, I would say it's harder than telling the players for sure.
Yeah, because they're obviously they care about the athlete too, but they're trying to win too. So.
Exactly, and I totally understand where they're coming from, and I think that's an important thing to what I always try to relay to the coaches, and I understand where they're coming from, but I have to do my job too. But I would say telling the coaches is probably harder than telling the players.
Both tough though, for sure.
Both tough, tough, yes.
You were talking about mentors, and you actually, I don't know if he's a mentor or not, but you know Cody Peterman.
Yeah, I do know Cody.
Was he friend, mentor?
Yeah, I consider him both. He was a fellow or an intern athletic trainer at Oregon State my first year of grad school. So that was about 3 years ago now. And he was working with Oregon State football at the time. And I had met him because I had started with Oregon State football. That was kind of one of my first clinical rotations. So I was able to kind of learn quite a bit from him as an athletic trainer kind of right when I started, which was kind of cool. Okay.
Yeah, no, he was a great dude. He helped me out a ton. I was in there probably every day, which isn't the most fun. I know that when I was playing, there's kind of the side where you're like, I'm going to stay away from the training room.
For sure.
Forever. I'm never going back.
Yep.
But then there's a side of it where you're like, when I started going there more last year, even though I wasn't hurt, I didn't get hurt. So I don't know.
Yep.
Is there a point where you're telling athletes where maybe they're in there too much, or is there?
I think it's, again, you walk this fine line because you don't want to just disregard the athlete if they do need something, right? But we kind of figure ways to help the athlete, but also help the athletic trainer as well, because we have a lot of things on our plate. We're doing a lot of different things, whether it's administratively or helping a bunch of athletes. So we sometimes may tell the athletes to do some self-treatment, maybe foam rolling, stretching, kind of helping give them self-tools to kind of facilitate that if they're in there a little too much. I think it's probably one of the tools I use, at least.
Yeah, and it seemed like that relationship and friendship worked out with Chris, because didn't he end up giving you a call about this job here in Portland?
Did Chris? I'm Chris.
You're Chris?
Yeah, I'm Chris. You're Chris.
We got Chris, Cody, and Chris.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get it.
Yeah, he didn't. I actually I was on my computer randomly, and I just was like, oh, I'll look at athletic training jobs open in Oregon if there's any right now. And I saw the UP job, and I was like, oh, that's pretty close to home.
Yeah.
And I ended up applying, and I knew Cody was here at the time, so I reached out and was like, hey, man, I put in an application. I don't know if you know anything about the process, but if you wouldn't mind passing my name along, that'd be great. And then he ended up telling me he was taking that job at U of O. That's where he went to undergrad, and it was his job with baseball. I was like, oh, sweet. Well, hopefully it works out. So, I mean, it worked out well enough at least.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, I think he left for you to have the job.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Yeah,
it's a good
You're
friend.
welcome. Yeah, no, he was a good dude. It's not like he's just, I'm never gonna see him again, but I'll still talk to him. But yeah, this is a little off topic, but when you're diagnosing injuries and then, say someone tears their ACL, how is it that some guys come back faster? Like Marcus Stroman in the MLB, he came back in like 5 months from a ACL or MCL, and then Cooper Kupp. But is that a myth, or is that like?
The human body is really, really confusing, I think, is a big thing. But we're continually learning more. We're becoming more and more efficient in our ways to do rehab, in our ways to do the surgery too. I think that's a really interesting thing, that they're kind of always learning how to be more efficient, and I think that's what's helping these athletes come back that much sooner. And it also kind of depends on the situation at hand. Like if we need to try and get this athlete back, speaking from just an athletic trainer's standpoint, if we need to get them back in a certain amount of time, we're going to try and pull out all the stops to try and do that as best as we can. And so I think that's what you can see with some athletes in the way that they can come back the way they can. And when you're working at the professional level, you have PTs, you have ATs, doctors, surgeons, all of these people kind of collaborating and creating this holistic rehab approach that really helps these guys at least have the best chance to come back quickly. So I mean, scientifically, it isn't magic. It is possible, but it's usually, at least from a conservative standpoint, you're looking a little bit longer down the road, like 9, 10, 11 months really, is when they're ideally coming back from a safety standpoint. But you do have those people who just heal. Yeah. They're just freaks for whatever reason.
Yeah, and they just came up with a new alternative to Tommy John surgery, correct? What is that exactly?
So I just heard about it actually. I think about a month ago. I had a buddy tell me it's I believe, I don't know for sure, but I believe it's UCL reconstruction.
Yeah, which how's that even different than?
So usually when you do a UCL or an ACL surgery, they'll take a graft of some different part of your body or even a cadaver body, and they will reconstruct the ligament wherever it needs to be. But what it sounds like, and I haven't read too much about UCL reconstruction yet, but it sounds like they actually reconstruct the torn ligament now.
Oh, that's crazy.
And they haven't done too much research on it, but the guy I believe is in Texas who did it, and I think there's been a couple of athletes that have gone through it, or overhead athletes that have done it. I'm not too sure. There's some articles, but I haven't read them yet.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's just crazy that after all this time, they're just now coming up with a new surgery.
And that's the thing is it just is continually changing. I see the same thing with kind of an ACL. You can really see that you used to have those big scars down the front of your knee or something, but now it's kind of mostly just a couple of portals on either side, maybe just a little slit, because you can just go in there and kind of clean it all up, and you have all these cameras and everything. It's just it's unreal.
It's that easy. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's that easy. I don't know why I didn't become a surgeon.
Seriously. Yeah, make a lot more money.
Yeah, it's no kidding.
Might have to do grad school.
Yeah, for like 17 more years.
Casual.
Yeah.
Do you have any more kind of serious questions before we go into the something that we like to do?
Oh, jeez.
No more serious questions. I think we grilled them.
So basically we kind of do this thing where I'm sure you've probably heard about the NFL draft pre-draft interviews, how they ask just ridiculous questions.
Yes, I have.
And they're serious about them. So what we've been doing is we've been kind of asking our guests on here just maybe 5 questions, and then we're going to give you a draft grade.
Okay.
So it won't be anything too crazy.
I'm locked in.
Yeah.
I'm ready to go.
All right. So our first one that we've it's something that we just kind of across the board ask. Are you a cat or a dog?
I'm a dog.
You're a dog. Why are you a dog?
Just the way I act. I feel like I'm always trying to be perky at least, and I do sleep a lot too. Not like a cat, but like just these random dog naps. I'm just gonna kind of chill out. But as soon as like a buddy or a friend shows up, I'm up. I'm ready to go for sure.
Love it. That was a definitive answer right there.
Yeah, I know.
All right. What is one song that you like, but you don't want people to know you listen to?
Ooh.
Or artist?
I don't know if I don't necessarily mind or not, but Truth Hurts by Lizzo, I'll jam to that in the car. If I need to like help myself up, I'll jam to Truth Hurts.
Dude, there's nothing wrong with that. I listen to all those Lizzo. There's that what is it? Water Me. That one's awesome. It's a great song. All right, I got one more, and then I'll turn it over to you. Have you seen the movie Intern?
Intern?
Or The Internship? The one with Owen Wilson?
Yes, I have.
Okay.
At Google?
Yes.
All right.
Vince Vaughn.
If you
a while ago.
If you're a nickel and you're thrown into a blender, how are you getting out?
Let's see. Am I in there by myself? It's just me as a nickel?
Yeah, just you. You're the only one.
I think I'm laying down flat below the blades until something gets turned off.
Okay.
And then I'm knocking the blender over probably and rolling my happy way out. I think that's the best way possible.
Yeah, I think they said lay flat in the movie, but you've seen it, so.
I have, but I really don't remember the last, I don't know when it came out, and I don't remember the last time I saw it. So, but I'll take it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good answer.
Our next one is what color is chocolate?
What color is chocolate? I believe it's brown.
Okay.
Yeah. That's all we wanted.
I'll write that down.
Yeah. I got one more, actually.
Okay. Unless it's white chocolate. Like cookies and cream, like a Hershey's cookie and cream.
Oh, okay. So you like that kind right there?
It's not bad. It's a little too rich, but
I think they suck. Those are my least favorite chocolate.
Yeah. Objectively, you think they suck?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, no, objectively.
Yeah.
It's only whatever I think is
factual.
Right.
Okay,
Yes.
got it.
True.
I got one more about the color thing. What color is snow?
White.
Melted snow.
I believe it turns into water at that point, and it is see-through or clear.
All right. Yeah, no, that's good. That's a good answer.
Okay.
I think that's all.
What is your draft grade right there?
I don't know. I really like the chocolate answer was good. It was pretty basic at the beginning, but then the white chocolate really.
I wanted to be clear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I think the really got me is the dog one, because if you say cat, then I'm already dropping you down.
No. Yeah, I would drop myself down too.
I don't think cats care about us.
I don't think.
Dogs
Yeah.
genuinely love us.
Yeah.
Forever. Their entire lives.
Yeah. No, literally.
Yeah.
That's
so.
All right, I think that's all we got today. Just wanted to say thank you for coming on. We appreciate having you on here, and we appreciate what you do for our athletes here. So thanks again.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me on. It's fun. So.
Right on, go Pilots.
Yeet.